Please like this video. It will really help this story reach as many people as possible. Thank you so much for your support. I walked into our house at 7:20. Lights off, sink empty, her car gone. The place had the kind of quiet that makes the fridge sound like a generator. I dropped my keys in the bowl and checked my phone. Again at work? I texted. Yeah, not that it's your business. Came back in under a minute. I stared at the words. Not the hours, not the overtime. The tone. For years we ran our house like a small company. Calendars synced, chores split, Sunday groceries together, Thursday laundry. Suddenly, I was the intern who shouldn't ask questions. I put the phone face down. Then I turned it over again. Copy. I'll make my own plans, I replied. No dots. Nothing. I walked to the pantry, pulled out a skillet, then put it back. Appetite gone. I poured myself a glass of water and took it out on the back step. Winter air bit clean. I didn't call. I didn't drive around looking for her car. She made it clear what role she was playing tonight. If I'd known where that text thread was headed, I would have bought popcorn. By the time she came home after 10, I was fixing the hinge on the laundry room door, kneeling with a screwdriver and a headlamp like a mechanic who forgot to clock out. You're up, she said, walking past with her coat half off. House doesn't fix itself, I said. Don't wait up next time. I didn't. She slid her coat on a chair, not the hook right above it. You're being weird, she said, like I'd moved the Earth's axis. You're changing your schedule, so I changed mine. I stood, wiped my hands on a towel, and nodded at the hook. She ignored it. Then she brushed by, and the gap was there again. No touch, no grin, no little domestic signal that used to make the day land gentle. I watched her open the fridge and stand there like the light would feed her. I grabbed dinner at the office, she said to the yogurt shelf. Good for you. She closed the door. Don't be aggressive. That wasn't aggressive. You have a tone. I have a memory, I said. And a calendar. And a wife who used to like coming home. Her jaw ticked once. It's a new job, Tyler. It's called ramping up. I know what a job looks like. I've had one. Then act like it, she said, and walked down the hall to the bedroom. I stood there a few beats with the towel in my hand. I didn't follow. I went back to the hinge, finished the screws, and set the drill on the shelf. The door swung smooth. At least one thing in the house was aligned. The next day I shifted gears. New rule. I wouldn't wait for her to be available. I started early at the shop, booked late appointments with clients who wanted the last slot, met my buddy Nate at the gym after work. No check-ins, no what's for dinner, no shared shows. If she was building a new normal, I would not be its receptionist. When she noticed, 3 days later, on a Wednesday night when she found me reading at the kitchen table with a plate of takeout, she acted like I'd cut the power. You didn't make anything? She asked, eyeing the container like it had insulted her. I ate, I said, and set my fork down. You didn't think to text me? You're ramping up, I said. I'm not a speed bump. She pinned me with a stare. Don't be a jerk. Set your clock, Aaron. You come home when you come home. I eat when I eat. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I'm under pressure. Then maybe don't use it as an excuse to treat me like the mailman. She took a breath. Then came the first softening, the sudden temperature drop like a cloud over the sun. Look, she said, softer. I'm sorry I snapped the other night. This project launches a lot. I shrugged once. Okay. Yeah, I heard you. I pushed my chair back. I booked us Saturday. 7 o'clock. That Italian place on 3rd. We'll reset. Her eyes flickered. You did. Reservation under Tyler. I'm not asking for permission. A minute later she was close to me, not touching, but near enough that I caught shampoo and mint. Thank you, she said, and gave me a small kiss. It landed like a concession, but it landed. I let it sit. She smiled, thinner than before, but it was a curve. She went to the shower. I rinsed my plate and checked Saturday's reservation again on my phone. I'd already paid for a fixed menu. A sunk cost is still a line in the sand. At the restaurant, she was warm. Not blazing, not like the start of us, but present. I noticed the difference because I'd had the opposite for weeks. You look good, I told her while we waited for the first course. I tried, she said, and actually touched my hand. I know I've been absent. I tilted my head. You've been elsewhere. I'll do better, she said, and she held eye contact without blinking like it was a dare. Do, I said, and let the server drop the glasses. She reached with her foot and found my ankle. We ate, we talked, we skipped the topic of her schedule. I kept it light. Stories from the shop. A joke about Nate trying to bench more than his joints could afford. She laughed, and it wasn't forced. After dinner, she rubbed my arm while we waited for the check. "Thank you for making this happen," she said. "Thank you for showing up," I said. Back home, she was affectionate. Active. I won't dress it up. It was familiar in a way that makes you want to forgive everything. She fell asleep with her hair on my shoulder. I stayed awake while looking at the streetlight sneaking through the blinds. Notice, decide, act. That's my job. The warmth was noted. I didn't pretend it fixed anything. Monday, she came home early with sushi and set it on the counter. "Peace offering," she said. "Not war here," I said. But we ate together. She asked about my clients. I asked about her team. She spoke in generalities, the analysts, the creatives, but I didn't press names. I don't make people tell me who they are. They do it when you stop prompting. By the end of that week, she floated an invitation. "There's a company thing next Friday. Casual. Food, drinks. Come with me," she asked, the words quick like she wanted them out before she changed her mind. "You want me there?" I clarified, not sarcastic. "I do." "Okay," I said. "I'll go." Friday rolled around, and we drove to a midtown hotel where the conference rooms had been converted into mingling spaces with rented plants and high tables. I don't love these things, but I know how to stand in a corner with a plate and make small talk without sweating. Erin wore a dark dress I'd always liked. In the car, she squeezed my knee at a red light. "Smile," she said. "I have one," I said back. In the ballroom, music hummed low, waiters drifted with trays, and clusters formed the way they always do at office parties. Teams orbiting their managers, wearing their best festival faces. A woman at the check-in table handed Erin a badge and looked at me. No badge for me. I stuck close. Erin waved at a few people, then got pulled into a conversation by a tall guy with very white teeth and a blazer that fit like a bet he'd lost. He didn't look at me. She glanced back once. "I'll be right there," she said, but her eyes were already gone. "Take your time," I said to the air. I found a table near the wall, grabbed a sparkling water, and observed. It's my favorite thing at events like that. Watch, catalog, draw lines. 10 minutes passed. 15. She drifted to a group around the dessert table. The tall guy stayed near her shoulder. Their body language wasn't boss and subordinate, not mentor and mentee. It was familiar, not proof of anything, just a data point. I took out my phone to send Nate a picture of the room captioned, "Where extroverts go to thrive," but I didn't hit send. "Taken?" a voice asked. I looked up. A woman about my age, maybe a hair older, stood there in a black suit that fit like it was built around her shoulders. Dark hair, clean line of lipstick, quiet eyes that had seen plenty. She didn't wear a badge either. "Seats open," I said, pulling the chair a little. "She Saturday, thanks." I needed a minute away from the crowd before I tell them it's time for speeches. "You don't have a badge," I said. She smiled. "I don't need one." "Ah," I said, like I guessed the ending to a show. "You sign the checks." "Something like that," she said. "I'm Margaret." "Tyler." "Tyler who belongs to?" "My wife works here." I nodded toward the crowd. "She's somewhere in that knot." "You must be Erin's husband," Margaret said. "She mentioned you once." "Is that a good thing?" Margaret tilted her head. "She said you build things and don't talk too much. That's an endorsement in my world. I can add or subtract words as needed. Useful skill." We talked. She asked what I built at the shop. I asked how often she had to do these events. She said more than she liked. I said that sounded like leadership. She wrinkled her nose. "Or babysitting." She laughed in a way that didn't need volume to be heard. A few minutes in, she glanced beyond me, then flicked her gaze back. "Don't turn around," she said softly. "But your wife is over there with Jason. He's always the last to leave." "I've met his teeth," I said. She took a sip and almost choked on a laugh. Then I heard Erin's voice across the room, loud enough to slice through the music. "No, that's not my husband," she said, laughing. "He just drove me. I'm basically single, you guys know that." I didn't turn to look. I didn't need a second angle. I saw it anyway in the reflection of the window across from us. Erin with a group, her hand flopping like a joke puppet, the tall guy grinning like a billboard. A few people glanced my way, then away. Margaret had heard too. She set her glass down and let the silence ride for 2 beats. Well, she said, controlled. That's not what I was expecting. That makes 2 of us, I said, keeping my face steady. It wasn't shock. It was the click of a lock. The kind you feel more than hear. We sat with it. 10 seconds. 15. Margaret leaned in like we'd been friends for years. Forget her, she whispered, her voice not asking. Be my driver tonight instead. Dinner. Somewhere quiet. Just us. I'll make it worth the detour. I looked at her. She didn't blink. This wasn't pity. This was a door opening and a choice. Erin had just made one out loud in front of people she worked with. She was not my wife tonight. She told them that. Fine. I stood and offered Margaret my hand. I thought this night was beyond saving, I told her. Looks like I was wrong. She slipped her hand in mine and stood. Let's go. We walked out without drama. The coat check attendant looked up. I gave her numbers. Erin's coat stayed. I didn't send a text. You don't send notices to people who've publicly placed you last. On the sidewalk, cold air woke the city up. I opened the passenger door for Margaret. She glanced back once at the glow of the ballroom, then got in. We picked a place off the main drag. Quiet, simple, leather booths that had heard confessions from better men than me. No reservation. The host found us a corner. The server didn't hover. If she was surprised by the way Margaret and I spoke to each other, like we'd known each other longer than 30 minutes, she didn't show it. Tell me a story, Margaret said after we ordered. About what? About what you build when you're not fixing laundry doors at 10 at night. I told her about the custom wall unit we did last month for a family of 6, how we had outlets in the drawer for charging tablets so cords wouldn't snake across the floor. She asked questions that weren't performative. Between answers, she told me about taking over the company 3 years ago, what she changed, what she kept, how she filters people who love the sound of their own voices. Half my job is tuning out noise, she said. I could use that in my house, I said. She rested her chin on her hand. You married a storm? I married a woman, I said. She turned into weather. Will you stay through it? She asked. Not invested, just curious. Let me pause the story for just a second. If you're still listening, please hit the like button on this video. It really helps YouTube show this story to more people. Thank you so much for the support. Now let's get back to the story. I don't stay for disrespect, I said. And I don't chase what runs away. I added, then let my eyes drop to my plate. She nodded like she understood. We talked until the kitchen dimmed the lights. In the car outside her building, she touched my hand on the console. I hope this wasn't our last evening, she said, and her voice had just enough nerve to make the line human. It won't be, I said. I like the evening, and I like you. Those were plain words, but they were true. She smiled in a way I hadn't seen inside that ballroom. Good night, Tyler, she said, and she got out, then turned back and winked, quick and bright, before heading in. I watched the lobby swallow her. At home, the house was dark. Erin's shoes were in the entry and her coat was on the chair, not the hook, like a signature on a complaint. She was in bed, turned away, and I didn't check if she was asleep or pretending. I showered and slid in on my side. No words. She didn't ask where I'd been. She didn't ask anything at all. Morning, I woke early, made coffee, and wrote a list. That's what I do when something ends for me. I put it in steps. 1. Lawyer. 2. Financial separation. 3. Lock down joint accounts. 4. Change passwords. 5. Logistics, her keys, utilities, car insurance split. I didn't dramatize it. I just did it. I drove downtown, sat in a clean office with a man who wore a gray tie and spoke like a surgeon. I told him I wanted it simple and clean. He nodded. We filed. On my way out, I called the bank rep I'd worked with when we opened our accounts. I said I wanted all my income redirected to a separate account and all automatic payments evaluated. He said he'd send forms. I said I'd sign them by end of day. By evening, Erin came in and dropped her bag, then headed straight to the kitchen. Why can't I use the cards? She snapped, louder than a question needed to be. Did you run out of money? I ran out of patience, I said. I filed this morning. She blinked. You filed what? Divorce. She laughed, a short, sharp thing. You're ridiculous. You're free, remember? I said. It was a joke. That's a new definition. You're overreacting. She opened the fridge, then slammed it, then opened it again. I said something stupid at a party. Who cares? Your boss heard. I said. Margaret? Please. She doesn't care about anyone's personal life. Aaron scoffed, then saw something in my face that made the cockiness wobble. You didn't talk to her, did you? Not about you. She rolled her eyes. Unbelievable. You're making this big move because you're wounded. I'm making this move because I don't live in houses where I'm the punchline, I said. And because clarity is cheaper than confusion. She threw her hands up. Keep your money, if that's what this is. It's about respect, I said, calm. And access. The rules changed today. She stared. Then she did the thing she does when she has no cards. She acted like she had all of them. You know what? Fine. She lifted her chin. I was going to leave anyway. I'll pack some clothes and go to terrace. You can play king of the castle. Keys on the counter when you do, I said, and turned to the sink. I washed a plate that was already clean. Behind me, there were hangers clicking and drawers opening. 20 minutes later, she dragged a suitcase down the hall, the wheeled kind that bumps every tile. She stopped at the door. You'll regret this, she said. I doubt it. She slammed the door so hard the hook finally fell. I stood there, picked it up, and put it on the table. Nice metaphor, I thought, then put the thought away. I texted the locksmith I use on rental jobs. Need a rekey tomorrow morning. He wrote back, 9 a.m. I thought I'd feel more shattered. I felt sane. Clear is expensive up front and cheap later. Confusion is the opposite. My phone buzzed an hour later. Unknown number. Hey, said Margaret's voice. You promised this wasn't our last evening. I leaned against the counter. Not our last. I was busy today, I said. Busy. Ending a contract at home. Quick, she said, not prying, not gloating. You heard last night, I said. I did. Dinner, I asked. I'm in, she said without pause. We met again, and then again. We didn't rush. We just didn't pretend. We took walks in a park at the edge of town where the dog owners gnawed at each other like they're part of a club without dues. We ate at places where the waiters knew her, but didn't interrupt for small talk. She asked about my father and why I keep my tools in perfect order. I asked how she learned to listen more than she speaks. She said her first boss talked to fill silence. The smart thing, she said, is to let silence do some work. 2 weeks out, Aaron sent a text. Where did you put the green folder with the tax stuff? Practical questions only. I told her where. No commentary. She replied with a single K. That was our longest exchange in days. A month later, I was cutting a piece of maple when my phone lit up with Margaret's name. I dismissed your former wife today, she said, voice all business, like she was reporting a shift schedule. I thought you didn't care about personal lives, I said. I don't, she said. I care about conduct. Turns out she had an involvement with a colleague. I came across messages during a compliance review. He no longer works here either. I let the saw-hum die. I'm not surprised, I said. That tall guy's teeth flashed through my head like a sign on the highway. I'm telling you because transparency is currency, Margaret said. And because I imagine she'll invent a version where I did this for you. She will, I said. Thanks for the heads up. 1 hour later, my phone started vibrating like it had a short. Aaron. Calls, texts, calls. You did this, she wrote. You told her. You ruined my job. You ruined his. I wrote back once. I didn't know about him, and I didn't have to make you say that line in front of your coworkers. She called. I answered. You're disgusting, she launched. You were flirting with my boss like a teenager. She fired us both to clear your path. You announced to a room that you were single, I said, voice level. That's not on me. Don't twist it. Find a mirror, Aaron. I will tell everyone what you did, she snapped. Knock yourself out, I said, and I hung up. Then I went into my social media and wrote a single post. Friends and family, Aaron and I are done. She announced at a work event that she's basically single while standing 10 feet from me. I filed the next morning. Her company dismissed her today for an internal policy issue I knew nothing about. I won't discuss details. I made mistakes, sure, but this decision is simple. I don't live where I'm disrespected. Please keep your advice to yourselves. I'm good. I posted it and put my phone down. The comments were what they always are, some support, some neutrality, 1 or 2 cousins trying to stir it. I didn't answer any of it. I left it up for context. After that, when Aaron tried to spin a story that I'd been the one stepping over lines at the party, people sent me screenshots of their replies to her. We saw your comment. We heard you. She stopped. 2 days later, she showed up outside my job. Not inside, the front steps. That told me she still understood that her presence was a disruption. She stood there with red, tired eyes and a look like someone who's been running a long time and realizes nobody chased. "I need to talk," she said as I came out with a toolbox. "You should call ahead for things you need," I said. "I messed up," she said, voice wobbling now that we weren't texting. "I got caught up. I was stupid. We can fix it." "You can fix yourself," I said. "This is fixed." "I lost my job. You built that." "It wasn't." "Stop," I said. "You walked out of our house with your head high and told me I'd regret it. I think you meant that for yourself." And it echoed. "I never meant to hurt you," she said, which is the line people use when they like the benefits of their behavior and don't like the invoice. "You did it in public," I said. "You made it efficient. Can we please try?" "No," I said, and then I let myself add one final line, because if I don't, it hangs there like a draft. "You slammed that door, Aaron. It doesn't open from your side anymore." She cried. She reached, then pulled back, then stood with her arms tight like she was cold. People came and went behind me, pretending not to look. Nate emerged from the shop and gave me a small nod. Erin shook her head like she was the only person awake. "You'll miss me," she said. "I already missed the version of you that mattered," I said. "I don't miss this." She stared another few seconds. Then she turned and walked away, not dramatically, just dragging that suitcase again in my head, even though she wasn't carrying one. I watched her turn the corner and disappear. The paperwork came through clean because her dismissal at work had cleaned up what would have been a mess with spousal claims. I didn't gloat. I just signed what I had to sign and went back to work. At night I saw Margaret. We didn't rush labels. We didn't pretend we weren't headed toward them. I slept better. I ran earlier. My shop took on 2 new contracts because I had bandwidth I didn't spend on trying to read silence. A week after the steps scene, Margaret and I drove out to the lake one evening just to sit in the truck and watch the water push at the shore like it had a job. She wore a sweater and kicked her heels off on the dash like someone who trusts the driver. She told me about a thing she was building at the company, internal mentorship that wasn't just slogans. I told her about a deck railing system I wanted to try with hidden fasteners because I'm not a big fan of visible screws. She listened like it mattered, because to her it did. When we were done talking, we were quiet in a way that wasn't a fight. It was a rest. I bought a house. Not big. Clean lines, 2-car garage, small yard that I could mow in 20 minutes and edge in 15 if I didn't stop to say hello to the neighbor who always has a baseball game on his radio. I bought a truck that wasn't brand new, but felt like it would still start at dawn when I needed it to. I moved my tools into the new garage and lined them up like soldiers who knew their posts. When the ink on my divorce had been dry for a month, I came home and found Margaret on my porch with 3 grocery bags and a smile. "I'm trying that stew recipe you told me about," she said. "You're on salad. I'll handle the rest." In my kitchen, she slid into my space like she'd always had a key. She wasn't a replacement. She was an adult. We worked side by side without tripping over each other. She stirred. I chopped. We cleaned as we went. She told me she'd heard from 4 employees that the tone of the office had changed since she dismissed the 2 who thought rules were decorative. She didn't look sorry. She looked resolved. I like that in a person. I like that in myself. We ate on the back step. She put her head on my shoulder in that way that doesn't ask a question. After, she reached into her bag and took out a folded piece of paper. "What's this?" I asked. "A seating chart," she said. "For a fundraiser." "Don't worry, this isn't an invitation. It's a problem. I'm moving people around because 2 of them can't keep their hands to themselves, and not in ways that make good headlines." She smirked, then sobered. "You were right, you know." "About what?" "Respect," she said. "If it's gone, there's no deal left to sign." I let the words sit. Then I went inside and came back with a small box. It wasn't impulsive. I'd been carrying the idea around like a tool I knew I'd need on a specific job when the time came. "Before you get too comfortable with that seating chart," I said, "I want to show you something." She looked at the box, then at me. "No pressure, huh?" "No pressure," I said. "Just a statement of intent." I opened it. A ring. Simple. Quiet. The kind of thing that looks like a promise instead of a billboard. "I don't expect an answer tonight," I said. "I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know where I'm standing." She looked at it, and then at me for a long minute. "Not dramatic. Just careful. You don't waste time, she said. Life's not a waiting room, I said. I've spent enough time in those. She closed the box, put it in my hand, and then wrapped my fingers around it. Ask me again in a few months, she said. Let me earn it, and let you earn me. Deal, I said, and I meant it. People ask me if I'm bitter. I tell them I removed bitterness from the plan the day I stopped trying to negotiate with someone who wanted both freedom and my stability at the same time. You can't build a house on an earthquake, and you don't scold the fault line for being a fault line. You move. I gave Erin what she kept telling her friends she wanted: independence. Last I heard, from a mutual acquaintance who can't help himself, she bounced between short-term gigs and a roommate who hates dishes in the sink. She'll tell a version of it where I'm the villain and she's the phoenix. People are allowed to entertain themselves. I drive a truck that doesn't apologize when I ask it to work. I own a house where the coat hook stays on the wall. I run a shop where the guys show up on time because they know I do too. I come home to a woman who reads the room without making the room pay for it. When we're quiet, it's because we ran out of words we needed, not because someone decided silence is a weapon. The night I finally ask Margaret again, I'll do it in my backyard with the neighbor's radio murmuring a ball game through the fence and a steak resting on the counter. I'll ask because I'm ready, not because I'm afraid to be alone. If she says yes, and I think she will, it will be for the same reason I walked out of that hotel with her. A clean decision made in daylight, without shame, without games. Once you draw a line, you discover who can stand on the same side of it with you. Everyone else can keep walking. Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.